Hello, YouTube. Welcome to Graveyard Classics podcast number 2. And as you can hear, also as you saw on the picture of this video and title of this video, the career of Chris Barnes in Cannibal Corpse and before. This is an unscripted podcast, like always, Graveyard Classic style. So, first of all, I will start this with a commentary about Chris Barnes, a personal commentary, a personal opinion about what I have heard or read during the years. There is many controversies surrounding his career. Like two sides of a story in the profession, and nowadays we see his personality being manifested online, like kind of conflicts between him and other bands and. There are lots of people that respect him as well, that he has worked with. For example, with guys from Cannabis Corpse. I'm not sure how it ended up, everything with Rob Arnold, but that's a subject for next video. That will be so. Well, for me personally, I think that he has been a huge influence in the death metal music. And most people doesn't appreciate his input in death metal, but at the same time I understand. I think some people that don't like him because of his personality and maybe his latest works. A lot of people I see complaints regarding the latest work. Also has a lot of how do you say, fans behind. Lots of them still loyal to 6 Feet Under, but there is also like a huge, really like polarizing thing. 6 Feet Under, like it's not like Cannibal Corpse that. The death metal community is more united behind 6 Feet Under. Is like divided, polarized into. So Chris Barnes started started the kind of the biome. Started in the early 80s with bands such as Leviathan and I think Tyrant Scene. Yeah, and there was another band that was called Beyond Death. Is where Alex Webster was. These two bands blend together. Also, Jack Owen, I think, was in Beyond Death. I'm not sure. Jack Owen. Actually, Beyond Death nowadays is reactivated, but not anymore. It was like a short time now. Like I'm checking the Encyclopedia Metallum and Jack Owen. Yeah, I confirmed this. So okay, so Jack Owen and Alex Webster joins the guys from Tyrant Scene, and Chris Barnes was in Tyrant Scene back in that time. Or he was a Leviathan, I don't remember. I'm not that sure, but fuck it. The two bands blend together, and we have this Cannibal Corpse. And actually, in that time, the vocals of Barnes were completely different than what he played even in the first album. Like, I should really recommend you, all of you who are watching this video and interested in the life or career of Barnes, you should start really from his beginning till the end, because his vocals are extremely inconsistent with each other. And for some reason, this is a parenthesis, that's what I believe causes this polarizing. There are lots of people that gets with one era or something. So in the first album, or the first records that Barnes recorded, that were demos with Leviathan, that were Violent Slaughter or something like that. I will check now while I talk. In this demo, Legends of the Dead, sorry, yes. In this demo, Barnes had a really trash metal style, early trash, a bit like Creator, a bit more high pitch, but high tone of voice, man. Compared to actually when he talks, he's like fucking mellow tone of voice. Nothing compared to what he will be after, man. It's like. So you start with bands Legends of the Dead, sorry, and listen to also the Tyrant Scene demo as well, where he plays, and check out that. Then comes early Cannibal Corpse, like I said, the band forms after these bands. Barnes joins, and then they record the first demo. That was actually released in '89, I think, the first demo of Cannibal, if I'm not sure. And yeah, the first demo, Cannibal Corpse, 1989, and that actually gave them the deal, and actually it was thanks to Barnes, he had really good contacts thanks to his jobs that he was doing in the. He was a really hardworking guy actually during his youth. I believe he still is because he records an album almost a year. So it's a hardworking man, and tours and still and everything. So the first album, yeah, he was like working in this. I'm not sure. Maybe somebody can correct. Maybe he was working in these record stores, man. And he will get contacts with the guys from the labels and stuff. And through that, they got this demo to some agent and got them the record deal for Metal Blade. Eat It Back to Life, man. In Eat It Back to Life, Barnes also switches his vocal styles for the first time, I think. There's still a trashy vibe in Eden Back to Life, but Barnes uses for the first time his own style of vocals that is pretty unique, It's like something that nobody can imitate, the Barnes style, It's not easy. This album is really like Eden Back to Life is the trashiest album that Cannibal Corpse has ever released, ever, and will ever release, I believe. And big part in this time was because the lineup was coming from thrash metal elements combined, and Cannibal Corpse is death metal maybe in a way thanks to Chris Barnes, man, because he had this fascination with this type of disgusting lyrics and shit, and he was the one as well that brought Vincent Locke to the table as the illustrator for all the records. So even Back to Life, the first one, the first cover art, Barnes contacted Vincent Locke and convinced the band and convinced the label as well, which was very risky to promote the album in that way. So also was good businessman, man, because these album covers are really legendary. I think lots of people bought the album without knowing about the band just for the cover, like for the morbo, and of course I'm not denying that the music is awesome, man, but everybody got surprised with the music as well and started buying more records. But the Barnes was responsible as well for the first logo of Cannibal Corpse, which in my opinion is the most awesome one. It's really cool. More like, I don't know, like somebody slash knife and the logo stayed in the wall like from a horror movie, like and then the Cannibal Corpse logo, like movie Cannibal Corpse movie, but this is the band, it's really cool, old school. I have a patch of that logo in my jacket. I don't like the new logo. It looks like the new logo looks like you put blood on a typewriter or something like that. Like, I don't know. It's kind of the difference of there was a difference of concepts in the members, maybe, but we will get to there to the last part of this chapter. So either Back to Life, I'll say the best songs from that album are, but the truth is that I like them all, man. For me they're all awesome, but I believe that this is the album with the most filler of them all. Like there's the song Shredded Humans, which is awesome. It's awesome, Shredded Humans. It's cool. I don't know. I don't want to bullshit on it. Put Them to Death, I would say, is one of the best ones. It's really good live as well. Edible Autopsy as well is amazing. But Shredded Humans is a bit of a filler for me personally. Mango also is filler. I believe they were like intending to be a bit trashy. There is that repeating, and Barnes is just like chugging, and I don't know. I see it in a concert they were doing it for like the early ages to have a mosh pit thing going on with this one. Anyway, it's not a bad song. It's cool, anyways. Good filler. Scattered Remains, Splattered Brains. This song is my favorite of the album, really. And this one was in the demo also. In the demo, so it's completely different. When I hear the demo for the first time, I really fell on my ass. And when I heard this album, this was not the first album I heard leading back to life. So that album comes later. This song sounds so good in both versions of in the demo, and they're completely different. In the demo, Barnes still uses his trash vocals, but you can see that Barnes was really like envisioning something, because he came first with the lyrics in the demo, then went to. Of course, the rest of the band members were influencing, but I'm just talking in this case about Chris Barnes. That's all. Like that's the point of the center of attention of this discussion and the title of the video. But he was envisioning, like this dark atmosphere, this dark lyrics, dark imagery, similar to horror movies, and to promote it as such, like crystal clear darkness. The pictures also he will be coloring with his hair, his face. But the first album, like I'm still in the first album, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. The first album is the trashiest one. Still they didn't leave the trash sound, but I would say this is the best gore trash death metal album there can be, man. It's a good idea, like to make a gore trash like this or something like. It's a good style, like that hasn't caught on, and there's lots of inspiration in that. Like from the, I mean, more on the demo and between the demo and the Eden Back to Life album. So Eden Back to Life is released. In the pictures, the guys appear with this. Barnes had this kind of a mullet, trashy mullet from the 80s, and very straightforward. Really, the lyrics are polished and this gory artwork and made controversy, but still nothing happened. Butcher at Birth was the first album that actually I think gave them the problem like of censorship in Germany. I think they prohibited the album there and started, and also in the United States. I think they had problems. They had to put sleeves on top, and there was this Butcher paper version that must be awesome. I don't know if somebody out there has one. I would like to see pictures of the how it was packed. Like I see pictures only of the cover online. Like I don't see what said. The plastic, the paper. And Butcher and Beard. It's an album that has, I think, the goriest album cover of this decade of the 90s. The goriest by far. Butcher at Birth. So in this album we can see the evolution of Cannibal Corpse. I think in this album they finally found their sound. There was still that, but they still did with the trash element and everything. But they found their sound. Like the guys will still be playing in a trash style, and they will modify those trash riffs. Like in the band, this is the last album that guitarist Bob Bruce play all the guitars and help composition wise, and it's really sad the story of this guy Bob Bruce. Actually, I would love to make a parenthesis. Maybe you know what? I will change my mind. I will also talk. We'll make a parenthesis and talk about Bob Bruce as well here. Robert Bruce. Now he's a golf instructor. I saw on the. But this guy had a really peculiar way of playing guitar that the other members couldn't understand. They had to figure out, and that way, that's what it what created the sound of Cannibal Corpse, because of the guitar work, because there were many layers of trash elements, their riffs and stuff. This guy would come up with this crazy chugging guitar, like he composed the main riff of A School Full of Mouths in the first album of Bruce. So pretty much the guy was a genius in a way. Was a genius. Not in a way, he was a genius. Fucking awesome, man. What have we done? This guy composed A School Full of Mouths, one of the best songs to listen live, still now, with Corpse Grinder. I like Corpse Grinder as a vocalist. I won't say he's a bad vocalist. I like him more live than the albums, actually. I don't know, with him, the albums with him. I have a couple of albums with him, but I'm getting out of the point. So Barnes, in this album also, he started to use his vocals, guttural vocals, he sounds like a fucking monster here, fucking zombie. And his breath is, I always tried to imitate his gutturals, but I could never achieve that level of fear that he has in this album. His gutturals are so fucking long, and it's incredible because the amount of strength that he uses to generate this gutturals. It's not like the typical death metal singer that doesn't use too much strength in their voice to generate the vocals. They are a bit more how do you say, efficient in a way. In Barnes' style is really like you have to puke your fucking ear out to get that sound, man. It's very hard to achieve. So when they say that Barnes is out of breath, it's because the technique he uses is really hard to use. For example, Frank Mullen from Suffocation, uses a technique that's it's much easier to do, vocally speaking. I could never imitate him, but I mean that the Chris Barnes style is really in this album, especially Butcher of Birth, pure puking madness. So the band also went a little bit more brutal sound. The production with Scott Burns, well, in the first album also was Scott Burns. With this one, Scott Burns went a bit more creative than the last one. The last one was a bit more generic. I will say the production, good production, but I mean a bit more generic. It has its own identity, but there were many bands produced in that way. But in Butcher the Birth, everybody was produced in a different way. Barnes had its own identity in the voice. It's a lot of air in his voice in his fucking album. You can feel it in the microphone. Like it's not a guy screaming in your ear. It's powerful. His voice really. It sounds at least powerful. I don't know. Maybe the technique he uses as well. There are tricks maybe, but there are no digital tricks in this album because in that sense. And that's one thing that's really important to note. Chris Barnes never used any sort of digital assistance to his vocals in the Cannibal Corpse albums. In these Cannibal Corpse albums I will be talking about, he never used overdubs or distortion, nothing. And that was actually, in a way, if you think about it, another of the marketing campaigns of Barnes. He was composer of lyrics. He was the guy behind the band. He was the frontman of the band. He was the one who designed the logo. He was the one who came up with the fucking song titles and all the shit. The subjects, contacted the guy who did the band album cover, created the most guttural fucking voice of the time. I saw like a fucking I don't know, a second Barnes cock, but honestly, I'm kind of a fanboy of Barnes' career, and I'm objective, man. That's all. In this case, I'm trying to be as objective as possible and just be a bit more fucking biographical. And so who cares, man? Who gives a fuck? It's just me talking to my fucking microphone and recording it to share it with the internet. So this is how it is. But this album was like the goriest of them all. I'm not sure if this album Barnes actually asked to do it like this way, but I believe that it was like that because it went to all extremes. Like it's really even insulting. Like a pregnant woman, it's actually an unrealistic, artistically wise, it's unrealistic the scene because like the woman is well skinned, and you know how hard it is to. I've been like chopping chunks of meat out of bones, like chopping a turkey, and how hard it is to remove the raw meat out of a bone, And in this scene, will be like I don't know, like they are just removing the baby out of the womb of the mother, They would have been, and she's all skinned down, like it's not a realistic scene in any way, like. It's really characteristic if you think about it, but the concept is the insulting one, and the imagery is the insulting one towards the audience. That's why the censorship. There was lots of censorship, but also was a marketing thing from part of Metal Blade together with Chris Barnes and the band as well, of course, like making all the atmosphere of this. madness, and all this madness, there's all this imagery, Vincent Locke, and all these lyrics and this maybe these vocals work without the musicians. I ask myself sometimes that, and that also is a subject of next video. Cannibal Corpse. The name also was by Alex Webster. He came up with the name. It's sounding. It's perfect. The name, man, for the band. Really, it sounds spot on. It's so fucking spot on. And in the era of that's what the era. I will say this after the next album. I will do a commentary of the next album, Tom of the Mutilated, 1992. 1 year after. This was 1 year after another. Actually, check out in my channel. I did a remaster of the Hammer's Matched Face song, man. Check it out. Just check it out, man. I improved it in a way. I think things that for me were bothering me when I listened to this album for the first time, and with time I got used to the production. But compared to Butcher the Birth, I don't like that much the production of this album in a clarity way. But what I like is that it sounded so strange, the production, when I listened it for the first time. And this was my first album that I listened from Cannibal Corpse, Tomb of the Mutilated. I believe it was the best introduction in a way for Cannibal. I believe it's the best introduction for everybody. But I don't know. For some people, it will be Eaten Back to Life, maybe. It's easy, more accessible way. For some, this one. But this album, like Barnes again, changes the vocal style. Wants to go deeper and lower. So he wants always to exploit the image, And this one has an album cover even more insulting than the last one. And this case, they got banned to play to Germany for a long time. Like I don't know till when, but they really were forbidden. So till this album, I will say like you could easily wear in those times where you had the gang of metalheads and shit. You could be with a patch of like Mayhem and Cannibal Corpse side by side, man. It was like if in Europe the obscure shit, the dark, forbidden to talk about thing was like Mayhem, black metal, and in the side of North America, I believe was perfectly Cannibal Corpse, man. At least the imagery, because the guys behind they never kill each other or whatever. But this was also the first album, and this was one of the things I kind of don't like about the history of Cannibal Corpse personally. They weren't very pleased with the way started I believe the Battle of Egos in this case. Like they didn't like how Bob Russo was playing. I don't know why. I would love to hear actually. There is a Hammer's Face EP where there is a. I would like to hear the original version of those covers that they say why they fire, they kicked Bob Bruce out of the band because he was playing a solo for I think Zero the Hero, and he was prolonging his solo too much or playing it in a way that they didn't like it, and at the end Jack Owen ended up playing it. And the producers of the band as well were telling that there was to put him just as a live musician. I don't know, man. It's like really humiliating what they did to him, in my opinion, to Bob Russo, man. Like it's not fair, man. Like just to play live and this shit and this and that and what the fuck. Maybe he wasn't practicing enough. I don't know. Maybe he wasn't improving his guitar skills. If it's not the case, I will understand it. But he came up with really cool structures of songs in the early days, But this album was more Jack Owen and Barnes, and Alex Webster and Paul Mazurkiewicz, of course. And this album, Tomb of the Mutilated, I'm talking about. Sorry, sometimes I think I don't tell things I'm thinking. I'm talking to myself. In this case, the album has a vibe of fucking vile vibe that you can feel in this album. Everything sounds like fucking black and red and white. The cover art is impregnated in your head of corpse. mutilated corpses having oral sex with each other. It's really like the lyrics are the hardest to read in this album. Everything is over the top. The music as well is much more, like I said, in Butcher at Birth, they were started to find the sound. In this case, the sound is more pure. Even there is much more blast beats. The blast beat starts with Paul Mazurka beats. Incorporate this more in the structure, and that will be a staple in Cannibal Corpse. But that's what Cannibal Corpse never was too much about blast beats and this shit. It was more about the atmosphere, dark atmosphere that time. And well, I don't know. And also, like, Paul has also limitations for playing that I think. I don't know. He's in a way, like I've seen in all the interviews. He's a person I like the least from the whole band personally, because I've never met him in person or anything. But the way he in the Centuries of Torment video, he was referring himself towards Bob Rusay and all the guys, like, and I saw that he didn't appear in even Bob Rusay in the Centuries of Torment. He's really pissed off with the fucking man. He quit music again. I don't know. I always felt sorry for Bob Rusay, man. Like, I send my respects to him, and thanks for all the awesome compositions he has done for us in classic era of Cannibal Corpse, which in my opinion is the best one. So then comes everybody's Bob Rusay goes out, and the album is a success. Goes to the single Hammer's Batched Face, gets into the movie Ace Ventura thanks to Jim Carrey, who was fan of the band. I would say that actually for a humoristic thing, I think the band was really shocking. It's like bringing, I don't know, like in that time with all that conservative thinking, religion was really like dominant in the sense of what to do, like in the social morality. The fucking Cannibal Corpse song went to the Ace Ventura movie, and they deleted the fucking best scene from the from that recording where he's dancing, but at least it's in YouTube. But it's fucking hilarious, really, like seeing Cannibal Corpse, and that's my introduction to Cannibal Corpse, actually, accidentally, when I was a child. I never knew it would be one of my favorite bands in the future. And that's it. The Tom of the Mutilated album, I think, got the best songs. Well, I would say my favorite songs from Butcher Birth is Rancid Amputation. Butcher at Birth, I think, the title song, and Covered with Swords. It's a cool song. There are more there, but fuck it. That one is fast. And Tom of the Mutilated, I would say my favorite songs are Icon Blood, Hammer's Batched Face, and Just Ripped from a Virgin's Cunt. Also, I like that song. I think it's an underrated song. That one is fucking awesome. In this album, what I like is that there is no filler anymore. In the Butcher of the Birth, there is a bit of filler as well, still less than in Eden Back to Life, but in this album there is no filler whatsoever. I think that every song shines by itself if you put attention to it. They're all different. There are some songs that sound a bit like the same, but I'll say every song is a masterpiece here. This is a masterpiece of Cannibal Corpse. There is not an album that surpasses this one. There are lots of people that say that the following album is the best one, the one that surpasses in the maximum peak of the Chris Barnes era, but I will say that this is where things start to degrade for Cannibal Corpse in general, and it's after success with Ace Ventura. They try to go a bit more mainstream, sorry. During this time also, death metal was really popular, getting ground in the music scene. That's why even MTV was showing death metal videos, death metal music videos from Dayside, from fucking Cannibal Corpse, Death. There is a live Headbangers Ball, Headbangers whatever, I don't know, with Barnes on vocals. You cannot see him. The whole band is behind some mist with lights, but you can hear him, and it sounds really cool, man. And the problem with me, the last comment about Tom of the Mutilated, the problem with the production is that Barnes' vocal sounds really like low in the mix. It's buried. All the rest is okay. The bass is audible, but I'm not sure if the bass is audible because of Alex Webster's technique of bass, or because it's good in the production. Like I would say that that clicky sound that he has, Webster, for playing is he pulls a lot the strings. He's really like strong fingers, and I like the sound. I like it gives it its identity. But I would say that it makes album have that beat like type of sound, and especially this record sounds a lot like that clicky sound. And then comes the next one, the majority's favorite, the bleeding. The actual majority, like because I remember when I was like 10 years ago, like 15 years ago, it was like everybody's favorite was Tom of the Mutilated, and they were criticizing the bleeding, like that. Barnes again changes the vocal style. Also in the Tom of the Mutilated, Barnes also changes his vocal style. Was much more deeper. Now here he changes something that he start to enunciate more. The voice is clear. He talks, sounds, lots of sounds. And in the fucking structure of the video, of the sound of the album, sorry man, it's just like it's 2 o'clock in the morning here, and I'm fucking tired. I have to wake up tomorrow at 6 o'clock, and I am with insomnia. So I'm doing this shit for you guys, thanks to my insomnia. So first song, starting through the eyes of the dead, bit of an introduction to what's coming in the album, and I don't know. There is that. I don't know who was the one who chose to do that zoom out of the cover art, but I find it personally I don't like it. This is the first thing I don't like that the Cannibal Corpse, that the bling artwork, I don't like it. I appreciate it's abstract. It's Cannibal Corpse. It's Vincent Locke's hand, but the cover artwork that was planned for this record was awesome, man. It was like a texture of people, of like zombies. It wasn't that gory anyway, so I don't know why they had to do that fucking shit. Like to zoom the torso of a zombie. And maybe from censorship wise, like to be more mainstream. That's the thing with this album, is like everything is more groovy. The songs have a more predictable structure. There's a chorus, repeating voice. And personally, I think that took the creepiness out of Cannibal Corpse for the first time. That thing that they are so far away. In this album, they show themselves as looking cool, you know, and the other ones, they were showing themselves as looking disgusting and fucking get away from, like, get close to me, I will fucking harm you. They were like trying, like Mayhem and Cannibal Corpse in that time were similar, but they completely different in ways. Like if I can compare them, like before this album, of course, because Mayhem was like pulling away people, but Cannibal Corpse was like trying to captivate people, like telling fuck off, you know, like. And Mayhem was pulling away people of them, like telling you're not worth enough, you're not good enough, fuck off, to get people. So that's how it works. But this album is like, okay, look, come to us, we're cool, you know. It's not like, no, come to us, we're disgusting, we're pure morbo. And also, the lyrics are much more cheesy in this album, in my opinion. They're a bit more like censored, more. Also, Barnes' vocals, he screams like a bit like a monkey here, like with his nasal scream. In the Dawn of the Mutilated, his scream was much more powerful. Actually, it was like a much more vocal, bit the nasal still, but more vocal. And this one, it's all nasal. Sounds like that sound that he will make after, which I will talk about because still comes. This is the whole era of Cannibal Corpse with Barnes, so there's one more album coming up, and Fuck with a Knife is a really good song. I think it's one of the best ones. Pulverize I love as well, and yeah, Return to Flesh as well is good. That sound, that guitar that now has kind of comes. I think that started with that song, like Return to Flesh. So what much to say, like the best song lyric wise, I think is Fuck with a Knife. It's real, even the chorus works in this way, but it's still like it's cheesy, man. It's like watered down. It's like, I don't know, like you grab a good whiskey and you put fucking Coca-Cola on it of something. It's like to make it more accessible for the, how do you say, the weak people that cannot drink fucking whiskey just with ice, man. I like it with Coca-Cola, by the way, but the whiskey. But in this case, Cannibal Corpse, I like Cannibal Corpse on the rocks. And then comes the next album that they were planning. And by the way, Barnes in this period of the bleeding, I think that he was like doing it more. His scream was nasal, but still was pronouncing the letter A. And after this, like we everybody know, Barnes will start forgetting about the letter A thanks to all the dope he has smoked and started pronouncing the word E in his screams, man. And in that case, and anyways, fuck it, we all smoke weed, man. Don't judge the man, man. So fuck off who judge the guy, man. Everybody who smokes weed, or well, not everybody, but at least big portion of people that in the metal community smokes weed, man. Man, oh fuck. Okay, so the Created to Kill comes after the album that wasn't planned, and during this time in the live albums, live records, I think that letter E thing. I cannot fucking scream, man. It's like really late in the night. Fuck's sakes. So the E, it will be the fucking shit album that will, I believe, will be a problem for the Cannibal Corpse for the guys, you know. Like I think that's my opinion. I think, but I have read many interviews that their problems were with Barnes' vocals, like during live performances and during this era, and the recordings of this record, you know. So in this case, Barnes started to also form 6 Feet Under, which I believe created a bit of jealousy within the band, because I remember Barnes and the band became famous thanks to their imagery, thanks to the Ace Ventura, thanks to also the all the exposure, you know, they got from all this stuff, you know. And Barnes was doing all the interviews. He was in front of the interviews always. They were more interested in asking him the questions, all the stuff, because remember, all the albums with Barnes said all vocals and lyrics by Chris Barnes, and all the rest were the musicians. He was a frontman, you know. So on Created to Kill, I think there was started to what happened. There started to be with the success and all that shit, a bit of miscommunication between the band, and this miscommunication as well trigger bumps things further than they should, you know. So for everybody. Because I hear the Vile album, it's in its entirety. Sorry, fucking pronouncing sucks for me. Just try to understand what I'm telling, and with time, the more I do videos, the more I will talk in this language, the better I will become. I believe in it. I hope so. That's one of the reasons I started to do this YouTube channel. So in this album, Barnes' vocals where he was trying to go for a groovy thing, but I can see that he was like uncomfortable singing the songs. Maybe the recording session was like shit. The guys were like frustrated with him or angry with him or jealous on him, and he was. I can hear him like in lots of parts like out of place with the song, and it's not that he cannot go in on tune with the song, you know. It's that, and also it's the demo as well. So fuck it. It was not even the final cuts were like tests. I believe it's what they were intending with this, intending maybe to go backwards, like hey, we're Cannibal Corpse, man, we're like, or maybe like everybody went to, I don't know, Barnes, or I don't know, but the artwork, the original artwork that were they going to use for this album, Created to Kill, was going to be really fucking gory, like was something much more gory and go much more going backwards to the original style. And the composition of this album is a bit more chuggy than the. I would say chuggy is when the guitar does like chuk 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 chuk. Fuck, man, fuck it, doesn't matter. So the guitars in these are much more chugging than before, and the fucking Barnes sounds awesome. Anyways, he sounds good. I get his idea of what he wanted with the songs. He wanted his vocal to be like a voice, kind of like a waterfall going towards every guitar piece. The bass also is really like much more softer in the mix and here in this. I don't know if this is record. I can't remember if it was like the same with the final cut with Vile, but I mean it must be louder than the demo, but. I believe it's less loud than all the other albums that comes before this. But Barnes will also utilize part of the songs of this Credit to Kill to his own songs in 6 Feet Under. And Barnes was forming 6 Feet Under before Credit to Kill. Actually, he was forming it from 1993 when The Bleeding was released. So I can see that there were conflicts and shit, and they kicked him out for that reason. And I don't know. I think that is a shame, like that they couldn't finish at least this album, because in my opinion, these sessions are better than the final album, in my opinion. Because I really personally I'm not a fan of Corpse Grinder's vocals style. He's in my opinion he changed the band completely after it's just most of the things why I listen Cannibal Corpse was because of the early stuff. That's it. The new stuff I cannot dig it. It's not believable anymore. The imagery, even the logo, the change of logo was like I don't know, like it took a lot of it. Took a lot of the, and also I don't know. There's in this album I will say the justifications of why they sacked Barnes in the technical aspect of his capabilities and this till this point I would not agree with that. Like his vocals were actually really brutal in this era. There is a death board or the soundboard recording out in YouTube somewhere from 1994. It was one. I think it's the best recording of Barnes live there is, and you can hear a lot of ease. Lots of ease. But the ease were also quite influential, as lots of it generated the whole pornography in the scene. The whole bands like Woodalax and all this type of sounds that when the guys doesn't take any more seriously the vocals, but Barnes still took it seriously, his vocals, and I don't know. I would say that this is one of the reasons early Cannibal Corpse exist, just thanks to one letter, E. But Crazy to Kill would have been one fucking awesome album. Has a lot of elements from, I will say, Butcher the Birth and The Bleeding. Barnes' vocal sounds better than in The Bleeding in this album. Much deeper, again. A bit like in The Bleeding, but a bit between Tomb of the Mutilated and The Bleeding. I don't know what they were comparing really. It's maybe like sometimes success goes on your head and creates stupid things and situations for us. There are people that can overtake it as a group. There are people that can't. Anyways, for lots of people, I believe it generated a whole new era of Cannibal Corpse that they enjoy much more than the early one even. And for them, I'm really happy. And also, I'm happy for Corpse Grinder and for the rest of the band that they managed to stay afloat and create one of the most awesome careers in death metal history. That they are like the Metallica of like death metal, and I will say that together with Death, and I will say that they truly deserve that point. They created a whole history, like what Mayhem did. Like they appeared in the newspapers, were forbidden to play in certain places. They were really dark for their age. And nowadays they are background music for playing World of Warcraft and headbanging. So guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see tomorrow, or maybe after tomorrow, or maybe next month, or maybe 1 year more. The second part of this video, kind of the 6 Feet Under's era of Chris Barnes, and I will be talking about Torture Killer and other projects that Barnes has been playing on. So thank you for watching. Comment please. Bye bye.